first thing I like to ask people when they come on is I'd love to know what you're currently listening to.
That's a great question. And one thing we've been currently listening to, both me and Kim, is a Swedish band called Boy with Apple.
Ooh,
But
okay.
uh, Kim found, Spotify it gets such a bad rap for so much things,
Yeah,
but like every once in a while it gives you these weird little gems of things.
it does.
It's, I don't know if these are teenagers or what, but it's like this little Swedish band from Gothenburg.
Hmm.
That kind of sound uh kind of dream poppy, sort of lush and slow dive
Hmm.
and something else, but the songs are just really, really good.
Yeah,
Uh,
what's interesting with Spotify sometimes is like if you find yourself in a they have little pockets, and
mhm.
like if you find one and then there's like a whole world in the related artists that you can just explore around.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's the um I grew up before the internet,
Yeah,
so a lot of my musical taste was like autodidactic, like of just reading liner notes and looking for people in the thank yous to find other bands. Like, oh wait,
sure.
that's for example, like the some pop band, like punk band in Montreal, like the Doughboys or something, thank the Nils, and then you go try and find a Nils record and go in
Oh, wow.
these rabbit holes of stuff. So it's nice to have um, something like that similarly.
Hmm.
One other thing we've been listening to a bunch, and it's a little bit sadder, is there's a band. Speaking of bands that you that went under the radar, there's a band from Nebraska called Four Against,
Okay.
who were active from the 80s up until 2010s.
Hmm.
But they sounded like not quite as dark as Joy Division, but like kind of
Sure.
dreamy also. But they're from Nebraska, and where did this happen? How did they put out all these amazing records
Hmm.
over the years? And the main guy in the band passed away last month, sadly. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's been a it was a try and listen to it as much as possible because
Yeah.
he had cancer. Try and listen to it while he was still here as much as possible.
For sure. I do feel like there's also been a big surge in people bringing out these bands who are like forgotten from
Yeah.
past eras. Um, they're I got the chance to see Iggy Pop a couple weeks ago
Oh,
in
amazing.
Chicago, and it was a crazy experience. And he had opened for them a band called Verboten. I don't know if you've ever listened to them.
Mm-mm.
And they were from Chicago.
Hmm.
The guitarist went on to play with a bunch of bands. Like he played in a little bit with Bob Mold and
Okay.
um, Sunny Day Real Estate, uh,
Oh.
and they were just this band that never actually released an album in Chicago, and they reunited last year and finally put out their album. But this is literally 40 years ago that they were playing, and they're just like, yeah, we'll start playing again.
That's these, and there's a weird, not a weird market, but just the idea that you can do that. Like the
Yeah,
band released one or two records 30, 40 years ago are now doing reunion tours. And it's like,
right. It's the
how does
reunion
this
tour
even
is a
happen?
huge thing. Yeah, right now.
Or one thing that first time I realized, or first recent time I realized I didn't quite know what was going on anymore was there was a band called Duster
Hmm.
from California who were on Up Records here in Seattle,
Yeah.
where I worked when I was a young kid. But they nothing happened in the 90s with them. It just kind of disappeared. And then suddenly they're selling out theaters.
Hmm.
And like they're doing that, and it's like, oh wait, no, the kids discovered them on the internet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing that this is, and they're putting out new records, and like Numero Groups is doing all sorts of stuff, and
Sure.
it's wonderful that there
It's
can be
really
like
cool.
a
Yeah.
second life.
And
Yeah.
even like, that Iggy Pop one
Yeah.
was one example. There was another there's a band from the late 90s called The Anniversary that I was a big
Mhm.
fan of, and when they came to Chicago, they had open. I'm struggling to remember what the name of the band was, but it's the guy who produced their first record,
Okay.
and he was just again, never kind of was big himself, but he
Mhm.
produced a lot of great albums. But his band is like what inspired them to make music. And like I had never heard them before, but they opened in Chicago, and it was really awesome to hear them. It's just like really, you get these really like under the radar, like you're almost getting like a glimpse into like what the scene was like back then.
yeah, these the alternate histories of things, like
Yeah,
the micro, all these micro scenes that were pivot a little bit, so it's not quite
sure.
as all these micro scenes that like never really took off, or all the bands that like were amazing that never put out records, uh like the bands in between Rites of Spring and Fugazi, for example. There were like
Yeah.
three or four of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, uh, so there's all sorts of neat stuff out there. So
Cool.
that's always it's always a case of trying to find the little pockets of things that you like.
Definitely. And one thing I like to do is I like to keep this kind of ongoing playlist of recommendations from guests. Um, do you have a song you'd like to add to the playlist? Maybe it's a Boy with Apple song.
Maybe I was thinking about that, and I am going to contribute a song by a band called Broadcast,
Okay.
who were British, late 90s through 2010, 12 or something.
Hmm.
Sadly, the singer also passed away. She had pneumonia. But it's a
Jeez.
song called Come On, Let's Go, which is maybe one of my favorite songs ever.
Okay.
Um,
High
and
praise.
it was introduced to me via mixtape, like actual tape still.
Oh
So that,
wow. Yeah, yeah.
and I was like, what is this? But it's kind of sounds like if Stereolab were covering Scott Walker is the
That
best
sounds
way.
incredible.
But their stuff, yeah, went from kind of chamber poppy, but like noisy in strange ways to really, really abstract and experimental. But this was one of the songs where it's like the biggest hit from 1967 filtered through 2001, I think.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Um, sounds great. That'll get added to the playlist. But major reason you're here is, I guess, as of the
Mhm.
release of this episode, Photoform will have a new album that is currently out.
Yes,
It'll
yeah, by the time it's coming out
correct.
in recording time, it's coming out Friday. I am no, I am sitting here doing the mail order right now
Nice.
before we leave on tour tomorrow. But yeah, it's we have a new record coming out. It's been a couple years with it. This one is called Grief is a Garden, Forever in Bloom. And again, it is the same lineup as the last one for recording it. So me and my wife Kim, who are the main folks, and then our friend Michael drummed on this one again also.
Cool.
Uh, it's we're really, really proud of this one. Um,
Awesome. Yeah, I got to listen. It's really like pleasant but also dark, and like I think that's kind of the point, right? And I feel like in the world of,
yeah.
like, I guess, shoegaze, which that term gets kind of it's very broad today, but I feel like the sound is shoegaze in the truest sense.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we kind of it's we've that's such a so I've been playing in bands with Kim for a number of years now. Like this is uh it's kind of it's been more or less one band, but we changed the names at some point and we've been the two constant
Okay.
people. But we were how does it work? We were in the previous band names are hard, by the way. Just they're really, really hard.
Well, it's funny because people who are not in bands have so many band names.
I have notebooks of band
Yeah,
names before I started playing music that like none of them we used. But like so
sure.
key point, like our previous band was called C'est l'Amour. So it's
Okay.
like such as, C'est la vie is such as life. This is such as death.
Hmm.
The most difficult name to convey to somebody in a loud club. Like, what do you call it again? Was so we
Yeah.
changed to another foreign band name that at least you can spell. But yeah, it's a lot of people have asked what we sound like our neighbors ask what we sound like, and I don't know what to say sometimes, but I say oftentimes like loud, pretty, and sad
Yeah.
is the quick
That's
way
about
of putting
right.
it. Yeah. But it is, we are kind of shoegaze in some ways, in that I use a lot of guitar effects.
Yeah.
And the bass is very Cure influenced. I think
Yeah.
like a forest bass, it
Hmm.
carries a lot of content, and that's Kim. And for me, for the guitar stuff, I've always been obsessed with 80s English guitar bands, whether the Cure or the Cocteau Twins or
Mhm.
the Chameleons especially. And this was where I started figuring out. I thought I was finally dialing in like Robin Guthrie from the Cure, or excuse me, from the Cocteau Twins guitar sounds. And then I actually listened to the records again, and I realized I was making what my memory of what his guitar sounded like, other than what it actually sounded like, which is more interesting, I hope.
Yeah, it's a shift in its own.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's pretty. Lots of layers, lots of dreaminess. This one has a lot more, is a lot quieter, I guess,
Yeah.
than our previous ones. Um,
Okay, cool. Yeah. You said you were trying to describe how Photoform sounds to your neighbors. I would be curious to see if you could try and explain how it sounds. Oh, I love the mug, by the way.
it's a, yeah, we're in the post Sonics logo era.
Yeah,
Um,
always.
yeah.
Well, kind of on that note, I'd love to hear you try and describe what Photoform sounds like in like NBA terms.
Oh gosh. I would say, gosh, maybe early 2000s Orlando Magic,
Yeah,
where they're trying to do this new idea of this is going to come across as pompous, but they
that's
were the
okay.
first ones to do the like rethink that like what if we take three pointers all the time, and it didn't
Hmm.
quite work because they didn't have the shooters there, uh, and mildly successful, I guess.
Sure. Well, what I like too is like if you look at like Penny and Shaq,
Mhm.
like Penny is like was like a very like airy player, but then
Yeah.
Shaq brought down like the heaviness behind. I feel like there was a nice balance in your sound that's right there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking the post Shack era, but yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
totally
yeah, yeah.
that's I believe I got it right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, Penny, it's God, Penny Hardaway. His poor knees, like
I
a
know.
good, I know,
I
like
as a Bulls and Derrick Rose fan, I did have similar trajectory there.
I know Derrick Rose is the fastest man on the court. Like, what could ever go wrong? It's well, it's you could become
Hmm.
less fast. What happens?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah,
Um,
that's a great comparison.
oh, thank you.
I am curious to know how you said you've been in a lot of you've been making music with your wife a lot. How did you guys meet? Did you guys meet in music?
Yeah, we were vaguely. We're both. I grew up in Seattle. We both grew up in Seattle. I'm from here. She's was originally from Atlanta until she was a little kid. And in the Seattle indie scene, I guess I was working at the Sub Pop. I was working at Sub Pop Records in their little record store next to the
Mhm.
Moore Theater, and she actually lived in the warehouse space across the street back when you could still afford to live in Seattle. And we just ended up meeting that way and then running into each other at a bunch of shows and
Cool.
yeah, just doing. Uh, we were young, so like early 20s, like
Mhm.
just dating through and like just the whole indie scene in Seattle, like the post grunge indie stuff was really really vibrant too.
Yeah.
And having again, like we were talking about these little bands that you've never heard of, like having that happen in real time. And some of the
Hmm.
bands got really big, a bunch of them never went anywhere. Um,
Yeah. I'd love to know, like, kind of, it was such a huge music scene. I'd love to know like more about like are there bands you remember seeing that kind of like blew you away that maybe people don't know or bands that you got to see that like people might be jealous of?
Uh, this is so there was a really great like Seattle has seems like a liberal city, and it is in some ways. It's if you scrape a little bit under the surface, it turns really strange and conservative and um, trying to deny its own past. Like a lot of the city was based on like the gold rush and like the Alaska Yukon supplying. So like a lot of the early economy in the late 1800s was like about bars um, and like providing other pleasures for people before they went off to Alaska, like
Sure, sure.
all that stuff. And so like there's that, but then there's also like the super Protestant, like we can't have any fun thing. And part of
Mhm.
that came about, or manifested in what was called the Teen Dance Ordinance in the 80s through 2000 sometime, where it the idea was you couldn't have older people and younger people dancing in the same space.
Interesting.
So like no all ages shows unless there was an age cap. So like we would
Okay.
like to go see, or effectively it just meant that like only all ages shows would happen either at the University of Washington, who could afford the insurance, or we would go out of town. Like I remember going to see bands, having to drive to Tacoma, which is 30 miles away, to see bands from Seattle before I was of age.
Wow.
Um, so later, there was a cool theater that did matinee shows in the punk 90s called the
Mm,
Velvet Elvis, and a lot of great stuff came out of there. Like that's where uh, probably the biggest was like Modest Mouse ended up
yeah.
popping out from there. But like Sunny Day also played there.
Hmm.
And of the shows I saw, I guess the jealous one is I saw the first Foo Fighters show there,
Ooh, that's cool.
which was nice. And
Yeah.
I was talking with a friend of mine, and I actually uh, looked. I'm like, I wonder if there's like, I don't know how many years it's been now, but like, oh, there's anniversary. Oh, there's footage that came out of that, and I like looked on YouTube. I'm like, oh wait, there's me behind the amp. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but like bands like some of the indie pop stuff, a lot of the post-hardcore stuff, like
Mm,
Unwound was
yeah.
super super influential and wonderful.
Hmm.
An Unwound side project from the bass player Vern, rest in peace, was called Long Hind Legs,
Mm,
which is really like a maybe bigger now than it would be then, but like very kind of goth version
sure.
of what they were doing. Another band called Satisfact was really great. That Jeremiah from Modest Mouse played drums in them also.
Okay.
They're um, kind of, if you decided to have indie rockers try and be Joy Division before it's cool to be Joy Division or before it's cool to be Interpol, it was like that sort of thing.
Cool.
Um, yeah, all sorts of fun stuff back then. But still, it was a lot of trying to find the things that fell between the cracks,
Yeah.
um, and
Cool.
pre-internet. So,
Yeah, definitely. I
yeah.
was lucky enough to see a little bit of Unwound at the Best Friends Forever last year, and that was
Oh,
really
they're so, yeah, like it's so great. They're just
yeah.
like uh, just one of my favorite bands of all time. I
Hmm.
think one of one of my favorite band. Like if you separate your favorite bands from how often you listen to the records, maybe my very favorite band. And sometimes because like
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't just like sit there like, oh, it's a Tuesday afternoon, let's put on like New Plastic Ideas and
Yeah, yeah.
walls crumble. But yeah, no, great. And like Jared from Carp, another band from that era, is playing bass for them now, and he's great
Cool.
too. But they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like I uh, I finally was able to understand Sonic Youth after learning about Unwound
Okay. There you go. That's a
because they
good
didn't make
lineage
sense
there.
to me
Yeah.
for a long time.
I felt the same way too. Sonic Youth is it's a very jarring band to get into, but yeah,
Yeah,
once you gotta really dive in.
yeah, and then once I started playing guitar too, it started like
Yeah.
wait, oh wait, they turn you go on the internet and you look up their tunings. You're like, oh wait, I can play anything right
Yeah.
now, and it all sounds cool. This is
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Same I felt the same way about Pavement too. Like
yeah.
Pavement's it's really hard to get into, but once you're into it, it's like, oh, sweet. Yeah.
The bands where it's where once you're in it, nothing really makes sense
Yeah.
otherwise. More like the I'll dive into the Twilight Sad now and then, and like I have
Yeah.
to not listen to records for a couple hours
Yep.
either end because nothing sounds right after.
Right. Um, cool. So, shifting a little, we've been talking about Seattle.
Yeah,
You grew up a Sonics fan. Uh,
very much.
well, there's obviously a there, but I mean, you miss it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I grew up a Sonics fan. I am still a Sonics fan.
Sure,
And that has warped and altered or defined my sports fandom.
sure.
Uh, while they were still here and then while now, it's a lot of there's like our new record, for example, is all about grief and mourning and coming through that and resilience and transformation. When it comes to basketball, like my basketball experience is mourning. Like I miss the Sonics. I honestly, I still kind of miss them when they were still here a little bit too, because it was dark times before they left.
Well, you also you just had a glimpse of, you're about to maybe get a Kevin Durant uh
Yeah,
franchise player.
yeah, it was like I worry sometimes that somebody made a wish that like they said like, God, I hope the Blazers take Odin because we want Durant or something like that. And then like
Right.
they're like, yep, that's granted. And like, or like, I hope that like, Durant ends up being the good pick. And then we somehow the back
Yeah.
story is like, yeah, you get Kevin Durant, but you're going to move in a couple of years and you'll
Right.
never.
Yeah.
Uh, but my first sports memory was the Sonics championship. Like that was my first remembering watching sports at like a
Yeah.
friend of my mom's house. Like it was like just this, what is this? This is a huge thing. And then that didn't repeat again. We didn't win another championship until like 2013.
Yeah.
Like our Seattle was we had all the major sports franchises, not all at the same time, but like
Hmm.
the Seahawks were terrible for like,
Yeah. Yeah.
also okay. The Mariners were terrible, like laughably terrible. And both the Seahawks, which was exciting to see games in the Kingdom because it was super loud.
Hmm.
Mariners, like nothing that you would really rather do on a beautiful Pacific Northwest summer day, which is
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful things in the whole world, I think, is to go into this concrete dome and watch a baseball game. Like they
Right.
used to give out, I think it was, I don't remember, if you got above a B in school, you could have free Mariners tickets.
Wow.
They used to give tickets to houseless people sometimes to fill things in. It was like
Hmm.
it was bleak, but the Sonics were this vibrant. They were vibrant all through it all. Like there were these a series of compelling teams, and with like uh, the Kemp and Payton era, and then Ray Allen
Hmm.
era later, and then we drafted Durant. He played for a little bit, and then we drafted Westbrook, and they moved before he even played here, I think.
Yeah. I don't think he ever played in a Sonics jersey
I don't think
officially.
so. But leading up to that too, there was like like the ownership was like that Schultz era was just kind of terrible.
Hmm.
Like uh, the connection to the city wasn't there as much anymore.
Sure.
Like once we got like Wally Zerbiak, for example, which um, is just painful because was he Miami of Ohio or something like that? I don't remember where he was in college, but they were the
Yeah.
team that eliminated the University of Washington from the tournament
Ah.
1 year they're good. And so like he was this dagger. He was just
How
like,
could you?
how could you? And now he's like, oh, we got this another string of these guys who kind of all look the same, like of
Right.
these
Right.
nobody can shoot and 1,000 pasty point guards. And just, but there's even during the golden age, like there were mistakes. Like we
Mhm.
drafted Scottie Pippen
Yep.
and traded him for Olden Polynice,
Hmm.
Hall of
Hmm.
Famer. Old, no, he's not. It's like
Well, your friends just south of you made the same mistake too, and they didn't draft Michael Jordan. So
no, they did. Yeah, they didn't, and they did draft Greg Oden. Sorry for that.
yeah, right.
Maybe
They
we should.
got they got both. Yeah, I think we
Um,
could both feel sorry for Portland a little bit there.
but then there's also like people like, oh, can't you like follow the Blazers? It's like I can't follow the Blazers.
Yeah,
That
that's
doesn't
what I
work.
was wondering. Like, is there a team you've kind of proxied?
Uh, Candidly, I after the Sonics moved, I did not consume or invest in any NBA product until maybe about a year or two ago.
Is it strictly out of protest, or you just stopped kind of having
It
the drive
hurt.
to care?
It's like you guys burnt me. Like,
Yeah.
David Stern, like and David Stern trolling us like
Hmm.
during that all. It was just like go. just this hatred towards the NBA in general. It's
Yeah,
not the players' fault, but it's like I can't invest in this anymore. Like this is
sure.
I'm still in mourning about this. I'm still wearing black all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
We got to get you like an all black like Sonics jersey.
I
That would be
probably
amazing.
um I don't know if I own any Sonics jerseys anymore. I
Yeah.
think the last one I had I had a Detlef Schrempf one, which was
Hmm.
very meaningful to me because for my own background, I professionally I studied German literature and I got a PhD in German literature and have lived over there. So like Schrempf was this
Hmm.
amazing player, not just because he was German, but because he also went to school at the University of Washington and high
Sure.
school exchange student in Mercer Island, which is just a couple miles from where I am right
Cool.
now. Um, and my uh, proudest moment is I ran into him at a function at one point, and we ended up talking in German, which was like little kid me was freaking out, and he used the informal address, so like the du rather than the Z. And I was just like, oh man, I'm buddying up with Detlef Schrempf in German right now. This is the coolest thing ever. Um,
That's awesome.
but yeah, I had that one, and then I had some thrift store Sonic shirt that had the old logo and it just said repeat on it. And all I
Oh
could think
wow.
about was that it was in like 1980 that like, okay, we're back again. And that didn't happen, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but no, I'd wear an all black Sonics jersey as
Yeah,
long as I have the Space Needle basketball logo. I'm
totally.
a
The best one. So great.
uh,
Uh
the yellow and gold.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm assuming that the very thought of even paying attention to the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's like repulsive.
It's it hurts. It hurts. I took another good German word is Schadenfreude, like the pleasure in other people's pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
When they were terrible, it was wonderful, and then they got good. But it was like I even had a website that had no traffic for at all. Like right after, I think it was like was it Oklahoma City Thunderpants or something like that .com, and it just had a picture of Clay Bednan on it, just like liar. You
Wow.
this is I'm so mad at you. Like how it was a betrayal on so many levels, and it continues. Like it's like
Yeah.
the NBA used the Sonics as the dark horse to like keep everyone else in line forever. And like even in the like it's been like 16 years, like just to keep keep all the cities in line. And like they keep promising like it's like, oh, kicking the ball down the road. It's like the papers here will say like, oh, they're like maybe at the meetings this year they'll talk about the Sonics. They don't talk about the Sonics coming back.
It's got to happen though, right?
I don't it maybe.
Because
Uh,
Seattle as a city still loves basketball, right?
yeah, oh, absolutely. Like Seattle is a basketball town.
Yeah.
We have probably for pro athletes more basketball than any other sport.
Yeah.
Like there's uh like Paulo Banchero is from like my neighborhood. You know,
Hmm.
like he's got his I think it's a little weird he has a tattoo of the street sign on there because like I'd feel a little weird for this mom and stalkers, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but no, he's from here. But like just the series of people, like good and bad, like
Hmm. I feel
Isaiah
like
Thomas.
last time I was in Seattle too, I think Jamal Crawford was like hosting
Yeah,
a basketball tournament or
yeah,
something.
yeah. They still do that every year. Like Jamal Crawford does stuff. Nate Robinson did things
Uh-huh.
until he recently passed. Keeps coming up. But Crawford, Doug Christie, your man Zach Levine was from Bothell, which is just the next town up from us. And then people who aren't so good, like Spencer Hawes went to my high school. That
Sure.
doesn't.
Don't disrespect Spencer Hawes like
I
that.
don't. But like for the
Cool.
year,
Yeah.
like Brandon Roy, for example,
Mm.
Brandon Roy was
Hmm.
the like again speaking of knees, was this amazing. Like he was
Yeah.
an amazing college player, and just the what I want out of a pro.
Yeah.
Just this guy, the glue guy who made everyone around him better
Right.
with knees made out of glass.
Yeah.
But that's
My brother lived in Seattle for a little bit, and I know that he ran into Brandon Roy before, and like he just seems like such a genuine guy. He's like still happy to like take pictures with people, and like, yeah, such a bummer to see something bad happen to such a good person.
Totally. And like, yeah, he's like, it's the exactly. They're the career trajectory is longer than football players,
Yeah.
thankfully. It's but like people would like even the ex pros would move back here, like
Mm,
Slick Watts, who was the first iconic Seattle basketball player,
sure.
uh, moved here after he got traded. He came back. Like Bill Russell, who was a coach for a while,
Mhm.
lived out the rest of his days here. Like it's a
Yeah. Didn't Sean Kemp open a bunch of dispensaries?
yes, he did. Yes, he did. And what was Sean Kemp would in the 90s would play pickup like late night pickup basketball like downtown like in like kind of like the Needle Park area,
Yeah.
whatever the right term for that is. But like, like I would be careful where you bounce the ball. But like he'd be playing, like you'd hear this thunderous dunk, and it's like it's Sean Kemp at 1 a.m. What's going on
It's
here?
amazing.
Um,
I think all it takes is you just need one very vocal, strong person to be like, I'm gonna get Seattle back in the NBA.
you would hope like they
Why is
have.
Gary Payton not doing that, you know?
Speaking of vocal, yeah, it's yeah, I don't. He he yeah, he's Oakland though. I'm not sure if he even lives here anymore. But like, yeah, it's Gary Payton's
Sure.
just wonderful. What an amazing player and what an amazing talker
Yeah.
over the years. But like Steve Ballmer tried to buy the Sonics like after
True.
Clay Bennett and like the Oklahoma folks bought him. They tried to put together a deal to Ballmer was willing to pony up money for it and they wouldn't sell it to him. And we've never heard from him again, basically in him and his
Yeah, yeah.
it's it's
He's like, fine, I'll just take on the Clippers. It's okay.
yeah, and there was when he bought the Clippers, like, is he gonna move them up here? Do we want that?
Right.
Like, do I want like there was talk of moving Sacramento, the Kings up here at some point. Like,
Right.
do I want to have that as a fan? Can I carry that weight? Because Seattle's always been expansion teams. Like
Uh-huh.
we had teams move here, like the the first baseball team here were the Pilots, who became
Mm.
the Milwaukee Brewers, and
Right.
then Senator Slade Gordon sued the MLB, and we got the Mariners. And like, but the Sonics were here, I think late 60s as an expansion team, the Mariners as an expansion team, the Kraken, which is the hockey team, which I don't understand. I'm from Seattle. I don't know how to ice skate. I'm not used to um we're
People are their fan base is growing though.
the
Big
fan
time.
base is they're huge here. That's
Yeah.
what you see most of. It's and which is wonderful. I don't
Right.
um but like you'd think like, okay, Jeff Bezos, could he do it? This Amazon stuff, but he just sold his house here. He's moved away to Florida or
Right.
something. So I don't.
He just launched some Blue Origin. He brought some celebrities into space yesterday.
That's so amazing. It's yeah, the jokes with his rockets are endless. It's
Yeah.
um
It's
yeah,
crazy.
they launched today, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was among those on board were Katy Perry and Gail King. So
I'm my bingo card did not have any of these things on it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But you know, as far as like expansion goes, like the NBA, I think does need to have an expansion team or two,
Yeah.
uh, and I think the number one and number two have to be Vegas and Seattle. I mean, if they do Vegas and Nashville, I think it's going to be a really bad time.
Exactly. Could Nashville support it? Probably. Like I,
I think
I
there were a couple others, but I think that it's like Vegas, obviously, they've been doing that's become like NBA headquarters lately with, Summer League
Mhm.
and all that stuff. But I mean, if you don't do Seattle, like I don't know what we're doing.
It's with Vegas, it's up until the last few years, it was always so strange that like Vegas was this unspoken thing that you could not have sports there because of the betting.
Yeah.
And now
It's embedded
so much
into all sports.
all sports are betting now. It's like there's so much abstraction
Yeah.
with how people enjoy and consume sports now, myself included. But like
Mhm.
it's you're doing it like looking at the lines, like people in the NBA, people seem to be following players more rather than teams,
Yeah.
which is fine. That's
Yeah.
probably
It's
healthier.
just a different generation. Yeah.
But like with the NFL and betting, that's so abstract. The NFL fandom is so abstract already because uh, we're identifying, or at least I seem to identify with the management and the owners rather than players. Like everyone's versed in the salary cap. It's like
Right. Right.
you're not, the outcome of the game is sort of important, but like you're like, oh, is this person a good value? Oh, they paid, like
Uh-huh.
how much is Geno Smith's new contract? Like that doesn't matter ultimately.
We should not be caring about that. Yeah.
No, it's just and this is when I turn anti-capitalist, but they're training us to, football's already a war metaphor, but they're training us to side with management
Yeah.
in this war. And so it's,
And assigning a value to a human being is
yeah.
just so bizarre.
Or they're like assigning a value to a human being and then like it being good that if the the best thing is when the value assigned to them, they're worth much more than you're paying them. That
Yeah.
is the goal. Like
Right.
the rookie contracts in the
Crazy.
NFL, for example. It's um and then going back to basketball, like I hope like with the NIL stuff
Yeah.
in college basketball, that's amazing. Like I hope you hope like Ed O'Bannon, who was the first one to sue this stuff from like his UCLA years,
Uh-huh.
like you hope he gets a cut of everything else because like everything's
Right.
changed. Like,
The NIL stuff is great, but you can tell it's not quite uh right yet. Like
oh,
they need to do something because what it's done is it's allowed players to just go in the transfer portal like every
yeah,
single year, twice a year, like and there's a lot of just gaming of that system right now.
totally. It's like you can't. This is me getting all nostalgic and old, like the nostalgia ain't what it used to be, sort of thing. But like it's not like the one and done is fine, but like the
Mhm.
people switching schools every year is so hard to keep track of. Like I
Yeah,
grew up um, with the NCAA basketball tournament being the main event in the household. Like my mom and
yeah,
I would watch it all the time, and like that would during March, that was my experience with like
sure.
my single mother who like worked really hard, but we'd sit down and we'd watch all the games, only one at a time usually because
Mhm.
pre-internet.
Yeah, you
But
couldn't
that
have four
was
screens up at once
yeah.
watching every game.
Um, but that's how and then that in turn like showed me uh you'd see the same teams and same values, same people on the same teams, and like build like the different schools had different values. Like,
Mhm.
we all know about Duke for whatever.
Sure.
I didn't know I wasn't supposed to like them, but I kind of did. Uh,
You know what? I'm not ashamed. I like Duke. It's fine.
I like Duke. I've come to terms with like I can be okay with Duke and still despise the Yankees. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but it was you get used to these players year over year, and then a little anecdote. It was like my mom loved it so much. She had a friend that she would just call, and he would pick up the phone, and she would just say somebody's name, and he would. The game was, you had to answer his college.
Oh man, that's like such a that's a thing that's like still happens today is like people just a bunch of dudes sitting in a circle just naming random players.
Yeah. So it's like the phone call. It's like, oh, it's like Steve Alford, and be like, okay, it's,
That's
um,
awesome.
but now I can't keep track. How long were these people at colleges even? Like two
Yeah.
years. I think 2 years transfer porter every other year. How about that?
Yeah. I mean, even before all this, the way NBA required college attendance or G League, like you couldn't just go straight out of high school. You had people going 1 year, leaving, and it
Yeah,
just kind of ruins programs.
totally. Totally. Yeah. It's like you get Kentucky doing whatever
Yeah,
Kentucky. Um,
exactly.
but so in college, like I played basketball up through partway through high school. In college, I
Hmm.
had stopped by college for um, partially because I stopped. I was always the tallest
Yeah.
growing up. But uh, once I hit like 10th grade, I was no longer the tallest by any means. Like
Yeah.
it's like my big man skills didn't work when I was not quite 6'3", when everyone else was like 6'8".
Yeah, I'm 6'5", and I was the big man for most of my life, and then I hit sophomore year of high school. I'm like, oh, like everyone's starting to catch up to me or get taller than me, and then now I look at the NBA. I'm like, I would be a point guard. I can't be a point guard.
No, no, I don't have the point guard skills.
Yeah,
I have like the 7-footer who's like who can
yeah,
barely move. Like I got the Rick Smith skills or something like that.
yeah. 7 footer and a 6'3" body.
Totally. And like, uh, I will say that proudest moment of my basketball life was I was called for goaltending in a game once. And
Oh, to even be able to do that is impressive.
yeah, I couldn't dunk.
Yeah,
I couldn't dunk in games, but like, it was like, okay, that was okay, great. And then I fouled out soon
there
after.
you
So,
go.
um, but in college, I didn't get it together, but I was going to declare early for the draft. Like
Just to see, you never know.
6'3" can't go to his left. Okay, that's great.
Maybe just invite me to the combine. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's 2% of everybody.
Yeah. Awesome.
Um,
Um, well, the kind of last thing I like to do is play a little kind of name association game called Musician Matchup. So since you're a Sonics fan, I'd love to
okay,
go down the list of some Sonics players and like what is the musical comp for these players, whether it's their career arc or how they play, or however you see it, and we'll compare our
okay,
answers.
okay. I'm thinking. I will think about this. I know you also do the Build a Band, and I
I
will
do, yeah.
admit that I had a really good Build a Band with that was like kind of Huey Lewis sounding with Tom Chambers
If
on
you'd
it.
love to go down this road, I'd be happy to do that.
Let's do that. I like the comps better though. But like
Okay, cool.
I
So
don't get to mention Jack Sikma's perm though.
oh man. So, okay, first on the list, the last kind of major player with the Sonics, that's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Kevin Durant. Um, you asked earlier how I felt about OKC, and I can't even hate watch them. Durant, I can enjoy because it wasn't his. He didn't have
Sure.
any of this. And he is absolutely great and wonderful. But I'm not going to go buy a Kevin Durant jersey because like
Uh-huh.
there's too much pain there. Um, I was for him. I was trying to. I was thinking maybe like Lou Reed
Oh, okay.
because it was like this idea of this greatness and this potential, this amazing stuff with Velvet Underground, and continued greatness and interesting stuff, but also kind of prickly and
That's
kind of doing his own thing for the rest of
that's
it.
really
And
good.
yeah, and inspired, but a little cantankerous.
Hmm. Yeah, there's like waves, especially in your eyes. There's the short life he had in Seattle, but then there's like the rest of his career, and there's two elements to that
Yeah,
musician, I guess.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the my kind of thought on this was it was a similar approach, but it's entirely based on location.
Hmm.
Um, Sufjan Stevens is from Michigan,
Uh-huh.
but most of his major life is in Brooklyn.
Uh,
And he does those state he did those state
hmm.
albums way back when, um, including Michigan. But I feel like it's almost like he can barely call Michigan home anymore because it's like he loses association with it. He's done Illinois and he lives in
Yeah.
Brooklyn, so I feel like he's kind of like this traveling musician now. That's just kind of where I went with it.
He's still got 48 states to go, right?
He does. He's got a long way to go, and unfortunately, man, he had that crazy thing happen to him last year where he's like
Yeah.
can't walk.
Yeah, no, there's crazy. Yeah, hopefully he's recovered more. I
I
haven't, but
know he's starting to get more active in social media and stuff, so hopefully that's a good sign that he's progressing.
mhm.
But okay, so that's Kevin Durant. We're going back further.
Okay.
How about Ray Allen?
Ray Allen is such an amazing player.
I know.
Also had success leaving Seattle, but I was for Ray Allen. I picked the band Luna
Ooh, okay.
because they are amazing at what they do. They are smooth, effortless, precise. Um, but I kind of like the previous version better. Like I like Galaxy 500 better, and I like Gary
Uh-huh.
Payton. Um, so nothing,
Okay.
nothing wrong with you, Ray Allen, but I will side with Galaxy 500 and Gary Payton over you. But thinking about Luna as they did have continued brilliance, but they maybe had the best opening line to a band. I think it was their first single ever because like the Dean Warren broke up from like suddenly left Galaxy 500, leaving the other two people going, "What's going on?"
Sure.
But the first line on the first Luna single was "You can never give the finger to the blind," which is worthy of Lou Reed, I think even.
Yeah.
It's just like so just caustic and amazing.
Hmm.
It's wonderful. But Ray Allen seems to be a nice guy. So,
Yeah. That's
but
awesome.
I guess along those lines, you asked about the first NBA game I watched after the Sonics left was the Ray Allen corner three game
Mhm.
with the Heat.
Classic.
That was the first one. That was the first game,
Wow.
NBA game after. I don't remember what year it was. So that was like years later.
That was I think we're coming up on 10 years on that now.
Like 2014, 15, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
6 years of like
it's
you're dead to me.
because
Yeah.
he went there in 2011, I believe. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So Ray Allen for me, I particularly I appreciate his Sonics years most. I know he had times with the Bucks. He had times with yeah,
It's
the
the Celtics.
Celtics and
Yeah.
obviously the Heat, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
I think, in terms of that placement in someone's catalog, I appreciate the National, and I think I'm going to go with the
Ah,
National because
that's
uh,
so good.
because the Bucks version, there was the first album which I could never get into, but I feel like Ray Allen on the Sonics is Boxer and High Violet, like that's Ray Allen on the Sonics to me. And he got popular, with the
Yeah.
Heat and the Celtics. He got really popular, and that's the Nationals starting to get pretty popular in the past few years as well, because of the Taylor Swift
Yeah.
and Phoebe Bridgers and all that stuff. But I love Boxer a lot. So
No, no, I actually had a note for the national question mark for Kevin Durant too. They're very much in the thing. But yeah, like but the first record because like the Cherry Tree or something like that,
mhm.
in the
They're
subtitle,
figuring it out.
it's like okay, there's some weird band from Ohio. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they they did well, and then I heard a Matt Berenger song on KXP the other day, and it was really great. But the
Hmm.
last couple national records, they haven't sunk in anymore. They just
I,
kind
I
of
agree with you. I liked the last one a little more than the past few, but yeah, in general, nothing sinks in quite like High Violet and Boxer to me.
no, absolutely. They're
And I won't leave Alligator out because the Alligator's really nice too.
yeah. And I will also say the Taylor Swift records are great.
Yeah,
Those
I mean,
ones particularly.
they're wonderful as producers as well. Like
Mhm.
they when they get their hands, they do scores.
Mhm.
I think they're wonderfully talented people.
And what was I saw them in maybe the most NPR concert I've ever seen. Like I saw them for a a food co-op benefit or something like that leading up to Obama being elected. So it
Uh-huh.
was like
Was Andrew Bird playing too or something?
maybe yeah, it was just the most like I am in an and I didn't recognize anyone in the entire crowd. It was very like
Hilarious.
I am in NPR right now. This is
Yeah.
what
That's amazing. All right. So the third one on the list, we have Xavier McDaniel.
oh Xavier McDaniel. He was the first of the really great Sonic players after the championship stuff. Maybe
Mhm.
I think that's right. Kicking around with his weird spot built sneakers that like
Mhm.
that company disappeared at some point. Um, I had a hard time with Xavier McDaniel because he
Yeah, me
was
too.
such the enforcer.
Yeah.
Um,
Bold personality.
Bold personality. I decided to go local-ish and went Screaming Trees and Mark Lanigan
There you go. Okay.
as like gets the job done, but also totally burly, and you did not want to cross them
Right.
because they're surprisingly intimidating. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
uh, Without the Lanigan drug problems, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But just
Uh yeah, that's good. I also struggled with this, and I think really my association with him is truly, yeah, like he was a bit of an enforcer. He was a big personality. Uh and I went very surface level, and I just
uh-huh.
went with the punk band X. Because he went by the X-Man. So I
Yeah,
feel like, and the more I thought about it, the energy of that band, I could that fits. I could see it.
and then if we want to yeah, go further a little bit. X is quintessentially American.
Yeah,
Xavier McDaniel played a very American style of basketball, like
there you go.
like just as Europeans never quite understood X and still
Right.
don't to this day, as far as I can tell. Um, his type of basketball is so different from the EuroLeague. Um,
Yeah, definitely. I buy that. Okay, the last one. We're
okay,
going with Sean Kemp.
oh, the Rain Man. Just as I said, uh, I'm not going to say Prince there, but that I st I struggled with this one. I'll give you I had two options. At first, I was going to say David Lee Roth because he could jump really high and he was maybe thought he could do more than he actually could in reality, judging by David
Okay.
Lee's solo records. Um, but then I went for a more obvious one and decided on the Jam.
Okay. Yeah. There
Not
you
just
go.
because of the dunk pun, but because the absolute excellence of the early work, the doing something different than when let's say Michael Jordan is the Clash, we have the Jam at the same time doing a different version of punk that was high energetic, like high energy, impeccable, just like greatly done, surprising, uh, explosive, and then just like Sean Kemp desired, got mad at Jim McIlvaine and demanded a trade and ended up at the Cleveland Cavaliers and discover was his game was more grounded, we can say, maybe than it was before.
Yep.
The Style Council never did it for me. Just like they
Uh-huh.
some of the records and was like, I don't understand what's going on here. This is not the same thing at all anymore. And it
Okay. Yeah,
lost
yeah,
everything I like about it. So maybe Paul Weller rather
yeah.
than
There you go. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Sean Kemp was once he left Seattle, he definitely was not the same player anymore. He put on some weight. He just
yeah.
was not the explosive guy that he was in Seattle. So when I when I think of when I see like the highlights of Sean Kemp just throwing down nasty dunks, he was like peak kind of like athletic form, like so strong, so like vicious in his dunks. And the energy of that feels
Mhm.
like Cedric Bixler Zavala from the Mars Volta and at the drive-in.
That's so good. That's
It's just
yeah,
like I hear that music when I see him dunking.
yeah, yeah.
Like
No, just
the beginning of Arc Arsenal where like the guitars just kind of like going all over the place, and it's just like they're like kind of dancing too, and it's just
yeah.
like loud.
It
That's what
was
I hear.
yeah, no, and the controlled chaos of
Yeah.
the Kemp and Peyton years of and the relentlessness of it all is just like it
Yeah.
was the most beautiful basketball I've experienced
I
firsthand.
I feel like it was like when you watch him, it's like I think he actually really wants to destroy the hoop.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think he
Yeah.
wants to pull it down.
Yeah. And yeah, just this, I don't want to put it in because he was junior college straight to the NBA, I believe.
Okay.
Like under the radar. So it's like he didn't play in a big college school. So like it
Hmm.
was kind of like he came out of high school, sort of, but not really.
Hmm.
So like there's not that tempering. Weirdly, whenever we go to Europe for vacation or work or band stuff, and people find out we're from Seattle, random people like the clerk in a store in like some clothing store, like, oh, Seattle, I'm an NBA fan. I love Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. It's
Yeah.
like, how old are you, first off? And like that's how do you even know? Like, what is that the first
Well, you know what it is
association?
too. I they are like the team in NBA Jam.
Oh, okay.
That's like
Yeah.
when I would play NBA Jam growing up, I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I have to be Peyton and Kemp, like
Yeah.
powerful duo.
Yeah. Boom shakalaka.
Yeah.
Uh, so we talked earlier about whether I could reconcile Portland or like, do the fandom there. The great One of the greatest announcers in the NBA, not just because he's the one I grew up with, but Kevin Calabro is now the Portland Trailblazers announcer.
Uh-huh.
And that's okay. Like I
Maybe
can,
you have a gateway now.
yeah, but like there's his NBA Jam, and I don't think he was actually on it, but like he was as good an announcer as the stuff in the NBA Jam. It was just
Awesome.
this like amazing and vibrant and matched the energy of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, maybe a good time to maybe just like dip your toe, maybe start ease back in. They're rebuilding in a post Damian Lillard world. Uh, I know it's you can't do the Thunder, but they are a fun team to watch right now.
Yeah, I appreciate reading about them. Like it's
Yeah,
again the abstraction of sports, like baseball. It's all like I don't go to games that often, but
yeah,
like the box scores. And Mariners will always break your heart. But yeah, OKC, I like that they're doing something cool. Chet Holmgren went to Gonzaga.
yeah,
That's kind of a connection.
sure,
Like like for a long time, I like there's this local pride in anyone who played around here at all. Like,
yeah,
like, oh yeah, oh like Doug Christie on the Kings, awesome. So there
awesome.
that's but Portland, I would choose Portland over if I had to pick one to be a fan of, I would pick Portland over OKC because I can't
Yeah,
OKC is yeah, I don't trying to think of, like I don't know. It's like they're like it's like a step parent or something like that.
it's hard to root for a team from Oklahoma City.
Yeah, no, I feel bad for them. Like
Yeah,
they're yeah, there's just too much. The way that the Sonics left town and the Howard Schultz selling the team to a group of Oklahoma investors who promised in all good faith, oh no, we're not going to move the team. Meanwhile, there's a arena already built there that had hosted the
fingers
Hornets.
crossed.
I know we're totally not going to move the team at all, and like just
Yeah,
and believing that and allowing it to go through is just it's unforgivable, and I
yeah.
can't do it.
Maybe
Um,
you just got to hold out for the expansion. That's gonna happen. I have faith.
I hope so, or I continue checking in now and then and watching
Yeah.
some college basketball now and then, and watching the Mariners, be another 162 games of not quite. I don't know.
Totally. Well, awesome. It's been great having you on, man. It's been great
Thanks.
talking basketball and a little bit of that nostalgia. And I'm looking forward for the release of the Fotoform album.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you. This was really helpful for me because this is the most I've talked basketball since 2009, probably in one sitting. So
This is part of the grieving process.
it is. I'm coming through it, and I feel a little bit better for it. Thank you. Yeah, I
I'm
appreciate
happy to be part of it.
it. Okay. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
Well, thanks again for joining us.